forever say that you're going to die alone, your life is going to be horrible without them, let's take a look at an article that's showing that actually the opposite is going to happen and is happening. They're going to be the ones dying alone. So, this article published 4 days ago states that a loneliness epidemic is spreading worldwide. Seoul is spending $327 million to stop it. If you're not familiar with Seoul, it is in South Korea. And if you aren't aware, South Korea, is where they are doing the 4B movement. If you aren't aware of the 4B movement, it is pretty much four Korean meanings for the four things that women have chosen to abstain from in regards to men: no babies, no dating, no marriage, no schmecks. It appears to be working incredibly well because the birth rate has dropped so low, they don't even have enough students to fill up a first and second grade classroom. This article that we're going to dig deeper into further illustrates that 4B movement is leaving these men dying alone. Let's get into it. Every year, thousands of South Koreans, mostly middle-aged men, die quietly and alone, cut off from their family and friends. It sometimes takes days or even weeks before their bodies are found. In the bustling capital of Seoul, city authorities announced this week that they would spend 451.3 billion won, which is nearly $327 million, over the next 5 years to create a city where no one is lonely. I find this very interesting because it really shows how disingenuous a lot of these countries are when it comes to a man's well-being. So you mean to tell me that it took for women to decide to stop dealing with men that now the country wants to prioritize men's mental health? Something that they refuse to do on their own accord? This is going to be $327 million wasted because everything is already allocated out for men in order for them to not have lonely lives. They are in control and they are the main narrator of their lives. They refuse to seek the help that they so desperately need to allow themselves to crawl out of loneliness. There's a really alarming statistic in this article that we're going to address, so let's jump back into it. More than 84% of lonely deaths recorded last year were male, more than 5 times the number of female deaths, according to the ministry. Men in their 50s and 60s made up more than half of the total group, making them particularly vulnerable to the risk of dying alone. The article did not highlight the discrepancy between men being more prone to loneliness and women not being as prone to loneliness. So because they didn't address it, I'm going to pick up where they left off. Men are not taught to harbor community within one another. They are only taught to mooch off of women in order to maintain their emotional stability as well as their survival. When women decide to take their power and no longer allocate those very, very special things out to men, men are not going to live as long. They are going to be extremely lonely. That is the reason why they want you to believe that you're going to be lonely without them. This is why they want to keep trying to force you to believe that you need them. 84% of lonely deaths were men. The women in their past don't want to be bothered with them. Their own children don't want to be bothered with them. Instead of collapsing the patriarchal conditioning that men undergo, which creates this problem in the first place, they are going to spend millions of dollars to try to allocate resources to prevent this from happening. Those of which men are most likely not going to use, because if they were going to use those resources, they would have done it already. Meanwhile, men are going to be getting $327 million over 5 years to have resources allocated to them, and you can't even get the same pay as a man. Let the men rot. Let them rot. If you're going to deal with them, it needs to be short term, get what you need, and get out of there.